Hey guys, welcome once again to GH Reacts, the web series where I just kind of yell and scream for 10 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about Paul McCartney and whether he's too old to rock, so stay tuned. So I read a news story, and I will, full disclosure, I couldn't find it. I was trying to talk directly to the writer and the publication that published it, but it was one of those stories that came up on my Facebook feed, and it was one of those things that you just kind of click on, and it was regarding his Seattle shows. And once I'd read it, I just saw red, and I've actually heard this. I mean, this has been a conversation that's been going on for a few years now, right? I mean, we've all been kind of talking about it from a musical standpoint. You know, obviously Paul is not the same anymore, right? His voice, I would say it was probably around like 2009, 2010 that he just kind of like lost it, and it just went into sort of a decline since then. But in the last year or so, I would say it's definitely gotten to the point where it's pretty bad. And you know, I mean, it really depends on what you look at as a live show as far as whether you want to spend money to go and see him. I saw Paul around 2016, which I kind of see as the beginning of the end. I mean, I thought he sounded great, but I think a lot of that was just through the lenses that I was very excited to be there and to see him for the first time and to just sing along to a lot of those songs that we all know and love. So your decision of whether or not you want to go see Paul McCartney, if that's based on musicality, if that's based on his singing voice, I should say, because he can still play, I think, great. But if it's based on his singing voice, then no, you shouldn't go see Paul McCartney. Simple as that. If you can't get past his voice, then don't go and see him. That being said, let me react to the overall kind of like thought process that people are kind of throwing out there as far as whether or not he's too old to rock. Guys, all right, look, we live in a world where there is constant negativity being thrown at us, right? And everybody's got an opinion these days, and we find ourselves on the internet reading people's opinions more often than not, and forming our belief systems based on opinions way more than we did years ago, okay? And this has created a world in which everything is it's given everybody the ability to have a soapbox, right? So we hear people say things, and then it just kind of, some people say, oh, he's right. And then it just becomes this movement. So I'm sure somebody at some point, I think there was one article that I came across from 2018 where it was telling Paul basically to stop. Okay. And I think it was actually reviewing Egypt Station, which I think went on to do pretty well for Paul and actually got pretty good reviews from most rock critics that Egypt Station was a good release regarding Paul McCartney's, you know, overall body of work. So there's always going to be one person that does that. But let me get back to the point. Just our entire lives is surrounded by negativity. Okay. We live in a world we're constantly bombarded by the political discourse, by war and disease and famine and just hatred and murders and all this stuff. Okay. I mean, it's real life. And I know that I'm not like naive enough to think that, you know, 2 hours in an arena watching an 80-year-old sing songs that were recorded 50 plus years ago is going to fix all the problems in the world. But for those 2.5 hours that you're in the arena and you're singing along to those songs, it makes you forget those troubles just for a short time. And Paul McCartney, what he represents is a time gone by. He's one of the few the few things that we have to hang on to. You know, I'm in my 40s, so you know, a lot of the people who watch my channel are older than I am, and they lived through these times. So I can only imagine how much it hurts to see one by one these musical heroes pass away because they're getting old, you know? I mean, they're getting up there. And we have a few rays of sunshine. We have a few just things to lean on right now that we can say they're still out there, they're still doing it. They're still just putting out their souls, you know, 3 or 4 times a week on these tours like the Stones do, and like, you know, the Paul McCartney does. And, you know, there's some people who came out around the 70s that are still really good. Like, you know, Paul Rogers is still really good. And, you know, seeing Queen and things like that, you know, AC/DC. It's just like, yeah, they're old. Yeah, they sound different than they did when they released these records 40, 50 years ago. But they're there, man. And for you to like rain on the parade is just like, why? You know? Why do we need to add another layer of negativity to our already shitty lives? When you're going to just rain on everybody's parade that wants to go see Paul friggin' McCartney at 80. You know what you're going to get out of him at this point, okay? There's no mystery there. When you buy a ticket, no matter how much it costs, you know what Paul sounds like these days. He's everywhere. It's not like he's hidden it. He doesn't hide anything. He doesn't auto-tune. He doesn't go out there like Frankie Valli and lip sync. He sings, no matter how good or bad it sounds. Okay? So for you to like rain on that parade, for you to rain on Paul McCartney, who's still going out there and doing it, is just, it's ludicrous to me. I mean, there's so much negativity. Can we have some things that are fun? Can we have some things that remain pure and untouched by this ridiculous social media, everyone's got a soapbox and opinion generation that we're living through right now? Is that possible? You know, yeah, everybody can tell him he should retire, but I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, and you may be retired, you may not be retired. And I've known a lot of people in my life who knew when to retire and some didn't. You know, I mean, look at some of our sports heroes, you know, some of those guys that, you know, you watch them in the last few years of their careers and you say, damn, he should have just hung it up, you know? And yet, what are you going to say? You know, like, are you going to tell Randy Johnson when to retire? You're going to tell Nolan Ryan when to retire, or Gordie Howe? Would you know when to retire? Would you know when that time is? You could be 65 and say, oh, it's retirement age, but you know what? I still feel good. I'm going to go do my job and still make money and save my retirement for later. Maybe that's what you're going to want to do. Paul McCartney brings joy to people through playing these songs that are literally the soundtrack of our lives. And he's going to do it for as long as he friggin' wants to do it. And as long as people continue to pay to sit down and watch him, he's going to do it. So for you guys to like rain on the parade and just, I mean, I could be speaking to a very small minority here. I really could. But I just want people to have a little bit of obviously respect for Paul McCartney, which I don't think is a problem. I think most people do have respect for what he's accomplished in his life. And I swear to God, if anybody comments on this about that Paul died in 1966, you will be blocked from the channel. I swear to you that will happen, because I am so sick of people commenting about that on anything. You're a moron if you think that Paul McCartney died in 1966. And he was replaced by another man who looked exactly like him, even though plastic surgery at the time was nowhere near as good as it is now. And believe it or not, when people have plastic surgery, even today in 2022, you can tell. You can tell that they've had plastic surgery. And you're going to tell me that in 1967, they gave somebody plastic surgery. They also taught him how to play the bass left-handed. They also taught him how to have an amazing singing voice. They also taught him how to go on for 40 frickin' years, 50 years, and have a recording career with tons of number ones. You're a moron if you think that Paul McCartney died in 1966. Just a little aside there. Thank you. But seriously, just give him just cut him some slack. He doesn't know when to stop because people keep paying to see him and cheering and leaving his shows and saying, oh my God, I saw Paul McCartney. This was great. So as long as that happens, he's going to keep doing it. And you know what? He may die on stage. He may, whatever. The day Paul McCartney passes away will be one of the saddest days in my musical kind of life because he is far and away my favorite musician of all time. But, just have some perspective. That's all I'm asking. Okay? Just have a little bit of perspective and just understand that this is one of the few things we have left, okay? Everybody's passing away. It's that time, okay? Within 15, 20 years, they're all going to be gone. So enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy him while he lasts. Please.